All right. Welcome to Eighth Note Session. I'm Devin Mullen.
And I'm Mike Shamil.
And I'm Mark Madden.
Yeah!
Yay!
Welcome, Mark. Welcome.
Hi, kids.
So today we asked Mark Madden, who, a little bit of background information for the uninitiated, has a resume that defies explanation or rationale. To put it briefly, owner of Mad Graphics and Mad Ink Tattoos. And most interestingly for me, what really got me interested in asking him to come on the show, he's making a documentary called Tuk Talks, which is a multi-series, basically overview of the Buffalo Renaissance through the lens of food, art, music, and culture. It's quite remarkable. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that project?
You know what? So I've always been involved in public art in Buffalo. From the first Music is Art Festival, we started incorporating artists painting live and really feeding off of musicians on stage together at the same time. And so we're going back years, obviously. And then I started noticing, as the rest of the city did, that public art was lackluster, to say the least, 10 years ago. And there was a shortage. And I started traveling to other cities, Miami in general. I ended up doing Art Basel one year, and I was just so blown away when, you walk into these communities like Wynwood, and it'd be walls after walls. I'm like, where is this in Buffalo, and how come it hasn't? So then, of course, over the last 5 years, you see these things start popping up. Ogre, Chuck Tingley, and, Chris Main, Vinny Alejandro. I start seeing these murals, and I start reaching out to these guys who I've met through Music is Art. Most of this all, for me personally, I was indoctrinated into the world of Buffalo public art through Music is Art. And I started feeling that, when I go to a city, the first thing I do is I go online and I'm like, oh, where is the graffiti tour or the public art tour? And most cities now will have one. And I'll stop by a neighborhood, grab a beer or two, and then go from, little neighborhoods to neighborhoods. And I met my good friend now and favorite mustache in Buffalo, Josh Warnock. And he rolled up during a witch's ball. So I was curating the witch's ball, and I was doing some artwork, and his cool little Tuk, which I had no idea what one really was. I'd seen rickshaws, obviously, all, but I'd never seen one in Buffalo. So I jumped on it right away. We became friends. And then the next thing you know, I was in Jamaica having an epiphany, and I'd seen all this artwork that was happening in Buffalo then when I was over there. And I reached out to Robbie and I said, dude, we got to do something. What if we, had something going on with a camera and the Tuk, and, offered this, asked Josh, who had the Queen City Tuk tours at the time, to make this a specific tour. So I was only thinking art. I was like, let's just go from mural to mural, and then maybe we meet the artists at their mural, and then Robbie could ride along, because of his notoriety and his voice and his connections, and talk to the artists. And then my good friend Newell, the mayor of Buffalo, contacted me, and he's like, you know what, we got to do this bigger than that. Do it about art, do it about also music, do it about food, do it about culture. Make it, if you're going to be talking about art, you might as well talk why art is happening now. It's not just because of the influx of artist intention. It's because of the beer. It's because of the neighborhoods, the growth of food. So he's like, it all ties together. So try not. And I was like, it just made sense. And ever since then, it's been rolling along. We shot it all last summer, which is the 5 episodes, and now we've been doing little offshoots here and there, but we're slowly releasing it. And it's just been like one of the projects of my life to move to Buffalo 20 years ago, fall in love with the city, just discover all this new family and friends that I have here, and then to be able to link up with my partners Josh and my partner Rob from Lit 716, and have Rob's vision behind the camera and him really knowing how to do it, correctly, from a cinematic role point where I'm just coming in as a wild director and trying to make, things, production happen at the right time, and, catch those moments that we needed, and get the people in the Tuk that made sense, that we really thought could speak for our city.
You're more of the concept guy, the conceptual
I am the crazy concept guy usually. Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to get in this Tuk. We're going to go down Hurdle Avenue. We're going to go look at art, and we're just going to talk. And you're bringing a camera, and you're bringing a camera. Let's go.
Extra calls, that I could probably get Robbie in on it. And then Robbie, hey, Robbie, do you think there's any chance you could call Philip Burke, one of the world's greatest, artists of the rock star? Sure. And then one thing after another, and then, I'd be at a benefit for Anthony Bourdain, and somebody would be like, dude, you're a madman. And know who else is crazier than you? Zamir Gada is right around the corner. Can I introduce you to Zamir? And then the first thing, I was like, Zamir, do you want to ride around in a tuk-tuk and talk about you and Anthony's, relationship to Buffalo and your Buffalo? Of course he does. And, through these kind of chance meetings have turned into lifelong friendships and moments that I just, it's been great.
So this project has really become like more than just like, all right, there's this thing I want to do, I'm going to work on it. It's become more like, this is now something important to me, and it's now kind of like weaving its way into your life. That's pretty cool.
Without a doubt. I thought I was instigating a tour for Josh, you know what I mean? To say, yeah, buddy, like, listen, you could do more than beer tours. Why don't we do an art tour? And then next thing you know, now it has grown beyond what we initially thought, by all means, and is, it's awesome. And then we're hoping that it's a vehicle for change and hope, and just, people jump on board with the concept of love. Like, everybody's always loved the city, and I like, keep Buffalo. Buffalo's not a secret anymore. I think just because if we want to bring this back into our day and times, with Cuomo and all the respect that everybody's been giving, the city of Buffalo about how things have been handling, and honestly, how much art and what a hidden secret it was. So we really want people to come in, and I don't want to keep Buffalo a secret. I understand the concept, but we're ready for more exposure and to really show that this small Rust Belt city competes with any great art or music city.
So something I definitely noticed about, we have our pre-conversation before we start recording officially, just, reacquaint ourselves with the art. And what I noticed was your career is very sinuous. It's very interdisciplinary. And you do the tattoos, you do the graphics, but you also do album artwork.
Yeah, I've always been involved. I started out before I was a tattooer, doing signage for a local company here in Buffalo, because I had moved to Western New York when I was maybe 15 to Lockport. My father was General Motors, so his General Motors plant closed down. So it brings back that whole from Mass, and it brings back the Rust Belt thing. And as a kid, I'd always been into hardcore music and like really sick album artwork. Like Sepultura was some of the first album artwork that I was like, whoa. And of course, Pusshead and some of the stuff, and then when I came to Buffalo, I was kind of thrown into a little bit of the hardcore scene with bands like Slugfest and IND back in the day. And I've always loved album artwork, and I've always been that kid where somebody would hand me their notebook in high school and I'd do it. So it was a very easy evolution. And with tattooing, it kind of goes hand in hand, or, a lot of the imagery kind of would play off. So I've always had fun working with artists' projects and really kind of listening to their music and then trying to say, like how that music influenced where their concepts was and what the artwork, because you really do judge or you used to, when you go into a CD store like Home of the Hits or whatever, judge an album by its art.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
Yeah, and that's I think you're right. It is first impression. I mean, even when you're looking on Spotify, you're going to see that album artwork, and many iconic albums. I mean, really, they're known in particular for having particularly memorable, particularly evocative artwork.
Yeah, there's a lot of times as an artist that I'll hear those opening notes, and just say Metallica, whatever, and Kill 'Em All, and I see that hammer with the blood across it and the big spiky fonts. You know what I mean? Those big serifs.
I mean, for me, it's Marvin Gaye. What's going on? And he's standing out in the rain with the water on his jacket, and it's so perfect. So, in engaging in that process, though, you have three parties essentially that you're creating for. You're creating for obviously the artist who's commissioned you. You're creating also for people who are going to see it. So you have commercial considerations, and then you also have to create for yourself, because if you're not, satisfied by what you're doing, why are you doing it? So how do how do you incorporate that challenge into your process and rise to it?
You know, and I think every situation is going to be a little bit different depending on who you're working with, what type of team you're having with you. So hopefully you decide that, you know, well, I'm going to let the guitarist is really the vocalist or the image guy in the band. So he's got the idea because he came up with 2 or 3 songs of the album. So I try to pick through to find out who I should be working with. Right after I get done with this, I've got a deadline. We've got the new, after 25, 30 years, however long it's been, Green Jello has asked me to help out with their new album art. So I'll be doing GarageBand Kids back out art. And right away, that I had the choice. So and I knew there was going to be a lot of artists. We, as the Green Jello kind of, you know, art creative team, there's 300 members of the band. And I think there's probably 50 or 80 of us that are actual artists around the country that have been fans of Bill's, that Bill kind of says, hey, listen, you got this one, or can you help us out with the flyers and, you know, whatever these crazy Green Jello projects would be. So I got a choice, and I didn't know the songs because there's a lot of franchise bands throughout the country, not just us that are the hometown Green Jello crew. So right away, I seen one of the songs, and I think it's all right that I leak some of the information here, but Back Alley Dentist, and something like that just jumped out at me. I knew that there was going to be a Garbage Pail Kids kind of theme going on. I could just see, you know, this kind of scene. So yeah, I'm trying to play off of the musician's concept. I'm trying to research into what I call my vocabulary of how I draw or how I render things. And then I also want to make sure that I'm a fan of the music, because if I'm not a fan of the music, I'm really the wrong person for the job.
Yeah, because otherwise, how do you draw, you know, emotion into it yourself? I mean, if you put on their CD or their record and you sit there and you're like, I feel like I'm in an elevator. Right. How are you supposed to come up with anything other than an image of you, like, watching your phone in an elevator?
Luckily, there's never been that case, because anytime anybody's asked me to do their album cover, I'm usually, you know, already a fan or a friend at least, and I can fake it really good. But no, I'm always, if I'm working for somebody, then I'm a true dedicated fan of their artwork and their music. And we have already had a relationship, more than likely. It's not very often that somebody's going to call me and tell me that they're, you know, got some project that I've never heard of and that I don't want to do. And if they do, I usually tell them the same conversation. You know what? There's probably somebody out there that you know that's a really amazing artist that might be better suited for it. I've gotten to be, you know, the point in my career that I've turned away projects that I'm not 1 million invested into. I have to be 1,000,000% invested. And it would always request.
And I think that, I mean, that whole prospect of, you know, saying no to the wrong project, that
very difficult as an artist.
It's super difficult. It's also one of the most important lessons you're going to learn.
Amen.
But when you're starting out, it is tough, because you gotta,
some people will tell you never to turn anything away, but in the end, you always know. There's a story about a famous Japanese sword maker that, you know, always wishes that he's on a hunt to hide these swords that he was never proud of, you know what I mean? And this is, I think, why some artists move so much. You know, I think especially tattoo artists, you know, and I'm not in the same place that I started tattooing, for damn sure. So luckily, you know, that if you're not happy with it, or if you're not invested in a project, if I find now, if I can smell it a mile away, if I know there's going to be a headache, then I'm probably going to get both hands chopped off. It's going to be more than a headache. So I tend to steer away.
Well, I'm sure everyone is happy in that scenario where...
Hey, man, and most people understand that, you know, that A, I don't have the time to dedicate it. B, I've been in Buffalo for 20 years now, so I have a list of clients and friends and family that I've committed to. And for me, it has to come down to passion is you know, and loyalty. You find that, like, I'm loyal to these people's project, and for me to keep on being this manic of an artist, taking more on, or even leading you on sucks, because I can't get that done in the time that you really needed, and B, you would have been better off going with somebody else if I would, you know. So I think a lot of it, you know, I'm coming to the realization in my life of taking the ego out a little bit, meaning that I can't take on as many things, and I don't want to. And I want to make everybody happy and tell them yes, but I gotta start saying no.
That balance is hard to achieve, but so important between like work and your creative projects and just downtime. And sometimes it's easy to kind of skip a little bit of the downtime to keep pursuing things. But yeah, you can't just burn yourself out, because then it starts impacting everything else.
And in the tattoo world in general, there is the term burning yourself out. I'm on top of you personally, like much closer than this. I'm 300 pounds of dangling fury, manic heart. I'm sweating on you. You're talking. You've brought 3 of your friends that are all sitting around next to us, taunting you and harassing you, calling you a crybaby. And there's 20 phones ringing asking me where their T-shirts are done. This pause that we've gone through unintentionally and forcefully has been the greatest thing for me. I've been able to breathe, and I think everybody needs to really, like, you can't overwork yourself, even if it's something that you love to do. It's still work. And
Can
if
you
you're
tell
not
people that again?
Yeah, I know. And it's tough the other way, because it's very easy for somebody to say, like, oh, well, you sit on your ass and draw all day. And I do, and thank God I do, but it's a lot of work.
I mean, I think finding the moments of, tranquility or whatever your preferred term is, very, very necessary. And speaking of the pause, obviously the sort of release schedule you were working with for Tuk Talks was hosting in local venues, bringing in the business there.
Yeah, we wanted to showcase that too. So when we knew that, initially the concept for us to have releases is that we would do hype parties, and we've done 2 of them. The first one, because we have investments on Chandler and Tapo, Thin Man, we knew that Chandler would be this new neighborhood, and we wanted to showcase that, saying, like, look at what Rocco and the team have done again, and let's, like, and then they brought in all these artists to mural it out. I got to help out with all that. So we were like, what, this is our perfect opportunity to really bring people to a neighborhood that they haven't seen, or one of the neighborhoods that they loved, then show them another neighborhood on screen, and then have musicians open up right before and show them their videos. So the first one, we were blessed to get Denny. I had met Denny Kremlis, and I know you guys know Denny too. I've seen that.
Oh, yes. A couple weeks ago.
So with Denny, he's another one of these, octopuses that is so talented. And he had been dropping these new videos. I was like, dude, well, why don't you show your video while you're playing in front of the screen, and then we'll have a video party. So it was cool to do a musician that was also a filmmaker, and then to give people this. And then we brought in local businesses and did like a small business market where people could build. So these are the type of events that we really wanted to build out of it. And then we did the one with Zamir right before the pause, that Zamir came over to the terrace. And I think anybody who had been to Music is Art back in the day would know the terrace as just the VIP. So if you hadn't been there since, back in the day when we were all just hanging out at the VIP, in the old casino, that they've turned it into this beautiful restaurant and whiskey bar. It's so amazing. So for us to be in there, we want to do the same thing. And then boom, the rug gets pulled under our feet right before we're about ready to move on. And the next one, as an announcement, is going to be at Chalmasudo. So we had gotten the muralist who did the giant double dragons behind Chow's from Tokyo. Actually, we caught him at the right time. So that's where we're headed next. Yeah, right. It was always about looping them in and pulling them down. So then we're like, you know what? We have to, say that everything, even if it doesn't happen for a reason, let's make sure that the reason it happened gets remembered, and let's utilize this attentive audience, give them something to look forward to. So we started doing these Zoom watch parties through Facebook, and then getting local businesses that were still on the front lines to donate, small gift certificates and stuff like that, so we could give them some exposure and get everybody still hyped about it, so that we had a bump in the road, but we didn't hit the brakes.
And I think, in a time like this, it's more important than ever to keep confidence up, keep a sense that there's always going to be tomorrow, and, it's going to be different, but we're going to be here, and we're going to keep living.
And there's still cool shit to look forward to.
Yeah, without a doubt, and different ways to think about it. And I really kind of believe in the whole risk versus reward. Is it worth it, or, to really risk everything that we have in life for, jumping the gun too quickly, or to thinking that we can't, enjoy something that much more if we wait a couple months.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's all going to be shaken out. We'll see.
I really believe it will, and I'm ready to move forward when the time is right.
If I've learned one thing in this time, it's that I really didn't have the world as figured out as I thought I did, and a lot of it's pretty up in the air.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, because I agree, and then I disagree, and then I smoke, and then I look in the mirror, and then
and the questions start, and it's
right.
Then you go to work.
Like, wait, I just smoked, and that is a mirror, man. So then I smoke some more, man.
Now you're an artist yourself.
Yeah, man.
Now, what are you doing yourself just to try and keep that creativity going, to try and just take advantage of the time and, rather than let things overwhelm you? How are you finding ways to sort of dig through that?
Skate decks. I got this box of skate decks and these blank decks, and I just put, I opened them up and I just kind of slid them on the table, took a photo, and I could take, the most beautiful tattoo and, put it out there, but people went nuts. There's something about nostalgia and skating and not being able to skate right now. And I sold all 10 skate decks within 10 days. Nice. And I'm just painting and drawing on skate decks. So that was really a big one for me to say, what am I going to remember 5 to 10 years ago about these 3 months of me really making art? I did a lot of skate deck art, and I just remember what it felt like to be a kid again. We talked about, album art and, opening up a CD or whatever. But there's something about, getting that skate deck and holding it, and then after you break it, putting it on your wall. So people love the skate decks. I love the shape of skate decks. I like how they sit on the walls. I like the fact that most of them, I don't really care if they are, but most of them will probably never be rode. You know what I mean? Because they're all custom, but whatever.
Hey, I mean,
but that's been a lot of my therapy as an artist, is that, and I've been blessed. I'm sitting here on Hurdle Ave looking out the window across from Revolution Gallery, and I'm right next door to North Park, and I am 2 blocks or less from the Hurdle Art Alley, and I've got some spray cans, so I stay busy. Yeah, we've been putting up a pandemic piece. I know that Chuck Tingley's over there right now putting up an essential workers piece at the beginning of Hurdle Alley. It's just so cool to have that space and to watch these murals evolving. So I've been working on a couple murals over there behind Sunoco. And you know what? I've just been relaxing an awful lot and making a little bit of music on the side too.
Relaxing. I have 16 creative projects, doing a documentary about an entire city, relaxing.
Relaxing.
For some people that is.
My tentacles right now. I've always got one tentacle that's just not wagging at all.
It's just limp. Yeah, I get you.
Look, when you're going 55 miles an hour and you're used to doing 120, that's taking it easy.
Amen. And I'm not literally leaving my house that I could have, I brought my Mac over here. I'm up in my wife's closet that we've been turning into now the offset. So I've taken over my wife's walk-in and kicking back.
Beautiful.
She complains that her office smells like a boy, or that her closet smells like a boy now, though.
Well,
she'll get it back soon enough.
You got that boy son. I mean, what do you So, I think we're just about out of time.
Sure.
Something I would be interested in what you'd have to say about it to any of our younger artists who are just getting started, who really, it's very difficult being a young artist in terms of making headway and getting projects and staying satisfied and not being, sort of led in the wrong direction. What do you think of a good bit of advice for folks like that?
Yeah, it's tough, man. We are in a very different world, and I never thought, as I was always the young artist, so I think I'm still a young artist, and I think that as an artist or musician, that's what makes us an artist, is keeping that youthful energy and having that drive. Is what I try to tell anybody who's being frustrated with art or frustrated with not getting projects quick enough, is to do what you love and really do it every day. There's so much competition. There's so many tools out there now that anybody can add a filter to something. You got to draw. You got to know the basics, and you got to draw real good and often. It's like a guitar. You have to play a guitar every day. You can't just fake a power chord. You can with somebody who doesn't know how to play a guitar, but anybody who is a true, musician or artist knows when somebody has put the time, effort, and it really has the passion. For me, everything's about passion. If you are passionate, then, draw every day and your art skills will catch up. If you don't have passion, then don't bother. If you're not into it, then you should do something like cooking or something else. But young artists just need to really look more and off the computer. So if you can go out to a park, if you're to say, oh man, I got this really cool project. My mom loves, my mom loves robins, and I found 50 references. Well, if you can go outside and find a robin, you're much better seeing it in person and drawing. So I tell people as kids to try to draw from nature as much as possible, to draw, and just enjoy being a young artist that isn't a working artist. Anybody who's trying to be a working artist is in it for the wrong reason to begin with. Money will come later, fame and notoriety or whatever. And I think that that's so hard nowadays, being a youth and feeling that you need to get likes and that you need to get, that type of, try to find a guild, find a group of artists, homies that you can bring up together and that you guys can teach each other, something like that. As an artist, we always learn that you're one person in a canvas. Well, most great artists, were guilds of artists. So get together with some homies, have fun art nights, and draw Dungeons and Dragons and stuff that kids just don't do anymore. Like draw groups of stuff. And if you're into Minecraft, then make a Minecraft maze on a table or something, so that you're not a slave to somebody else's art, that you're creating your own.
That's some good advice. Before we go, I have one more question for you. You mentioned you have something called the Camp COVID Project. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, God, yeah. So Angry Soil, Mad Dirt was a project I had put together going on maybe 15 years ago that I was never a very skillful musician, but I was always full of pageantry and crazy ideas, and I liked theatrical stuff. I was a big fan of Guar when I was a kid, and still am. And
that's some
Angry Jello, of course. Yeah, serious pageantry. And so I always loved circus sideshows and that kind of freak kind of factor. So when I started doing stuff with Robbie, I knew I really wanted to bring some type of wild circus kind of idea to music as art. So then I got together with some musicians, and I said, let's do something during this time, and let's bring in some guest musicians and do something that I'd never really, had done before, is make music through us sending each other stems, listening to a piece, and then putting it back forth. So we're still in it. We've got a couple songs involved. I know Trevor from PA Line just jumped on board with a song. We've got Preach Freedoms in the works with One World Tribe. We've got some friends from out of town, from Lazy Ass Destroyers, that music is art all the time, Ryan and the crew, who drive up from Cincy. So it's a project about music, and it doesn't have a very set sound because each song has guest musicians on it. So we're going to be putting it out hopefully by this Music is Art by September, and we're dropping little links here and too, but it's just me being blessed to have been associated with some really talented musicians that I'm able to put together and help choreograph some fun ideas about themes like paranoia and health and risks and solitary confinement and being away from people and the lack of communication that people have and the need for us to feel like we can walk outside, safely soon someday.
Beautiful. So I'm Devin Mullen.
I'm Mike Shamil.
And this has been Mark Madden. Mark, thank you so much.
Thank you guys, man. One love, stay safe, make art, not germs.
This is Eighth Note Sessions, and we'll catch you next time.
Here's a sample of Paranoid by Angry Soil. This is their Camp COVID remix. The Eighth Note sessions are produced by Music is Art. Help keep our podcast going and other programs by donating today at musicasart.org. Thank you for listening.